Do you live in, she lives in Pittsburgh, right?
I think she's in Toronto.
Oh, she's in Canada?
Yeah, yeah. And I am in Rhode Island.
You're in Rhode Island. That's right. I read your bio. Yeah. Oh my God. I forgot to put that on. Yeah. Oh well, I'll go back and do it. So let's see here. All right, let's see. Let me make sure we're on. Looks like we are. All right. Let me this and that and this. Okay. Yeah, it's good to have a fresh face on here.
Yes.
And yeah, it's going to be interesting. We get into what you do, what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me make sure that we're on. Everything's cool. Yeah. All right. So what's going on with that? Let's see. Heather Houston, Jen House, Sean Kirkendall, Diane Thomas, Delia Flores. Okay, if these shows resonate with you, please share so we can stay above the algorithms of Facebook until we make the leap to our own site, which we're still working on, and that's okay. And thank you, everybody, for your continued love and support and contributions to keep us going by the seat of our pants every day. From Morgan and I and Soulogy, we thank you. Okay. I just want to share this out to the network. It's a last show of the day, I think. I think it is. You never know. Could jump on later. It's already the 25th down under and in Europe. So for those of you who are in Europe, Eastern Europe, Central Europe, night owls, welcome. Down under, late morning, lunchtime. Oz in New Zealand, welcome. We've got the Zoom room. Paul Castagnata's in here. I'm going to put up the link for the Zoom in the comments, as we've been doing for the last 3 weeks, because, hello, Dorian and Donna David. I'm going to put up the link because we've been people have been getting kicked off Facebook 5-10 times during the show. And if you want to watch it uninterrupted, you can come into the Zoom room and you won't be interrupted there. Okay. So let me go back to my notes and find John. Let's see here. Okay. Yeah, I broke my glasses today. I'm wearing my wife's.
Oh no.
Yeah. Okay, so here we go. All right. A lot of people. Hey, Angela Breakerhoff, long time no see. Good to see you. Nicole's here. The Cinco, she was here yesterday. Beautiful lady, Susan Hoffman. A lot of people. Jenny Smith. I want to talk to you. Lisa Greiner Mon. I've never seen that name before. Welcome. If you've been here before, I just didn't know this. Cosmo Dancer, good to see you. And yeah, Karen Shunk is here too. Yeah. Ooh, got some tones going off in my ears. Must be something about to happen. So let me give you a little backdrop on our guest. This is a first timer. So everyone in the Soulogy community, let's welcome John Tyler Hoolahan, pharmacist, Reiki master, teacher. He's a graduate from the University of Rhode Island College of Pharmacy, where he completed his Doctor of Pharmacy degree and is now working as a registered pharmacist at a forward-thinking, independently owned pharmacy in Providence. He couples his practice in the medical field with his passion for holistic healing, metaphysics, and way showing. He's a Reiki master and a meditation instructor, here to bring an interesting lens to modern medicine. He's published research in the American Journal of Pharmaceutical Education and the benefits of yoga, meditation for college students, and he's excited to see where his soul leads him next. He offers Reiki sessions, classes for those seeking to learn more about energy medicine, as well as meditation instruction and intuitive guidance. And there's a website you can go to that has more information that will link you up to him. So without further ado, Welcome to Soul Speaks 5D. Thank you for sharing space with us today and honoring us with your presence.
The honor is, all mine. Thank you so much for having me today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You look a little younger than me.
Yeah, I was
just
wondering
turned.
that would come up.
Yeah, and it's good though. We've been looking for young people like Melissa, people like that. And I'm really bad at guessing age, but I would think you're like in your 20s.
Yep. I am 23.
23.
24
Wow.
in October. Yeah.
That's interesting. I I noticed that you used the term way shower, and in these circles, which I've only been involved in for 8 years, you see, I mean, the demographics at Soulogy are 65% women, 35% men. The bulk of that is 45 to 55. The next big bulks are 35 to 45 and 55 to 65. Not a lot of young people, but I'm sure they have their own networks and such. But what's interesting is that the breakdown of the demographics with the 18 to 25 and even 25 to 35 is more equal. So there's more masculine energy in the younger people that are awake, or if that's what you want to call it. So my this is just a conversation. This is how we do it here. It's not an interview, but so it's interesting you use the term way short. And at your age, 23, and being male. Where did you come across that term? How long you been in these circles? Where did this all start for you, or were you always aware?
Yeah, good questions. So to some degree, I would say I did come into this experience with a good sense on my shoulders, you could say. But I didn't wake up, quote unquote, consciously to, what's beyond the physical body until until I turned 20, which is 3 years ago for me.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was in the middle of pharmacy school, which was an experience in itself. Very materialist driven, very, scientific and data driven, science based. And it was the semester we were learning about the brain and how we treat mental illness in this country in the allopathic paradigm. And everything that I was taught, I had a lot of cognitive dissonance with. It was kind of hard for me to accept that, there's a chemical imbalance in the brain, and if we give this one molecule, namely serotonin, we're going to fix everybody's problems, when the efficacy of those trials really doesn't speak to that belief at all. But that was still what was, on my exams and things like that. So that kind of pushed me to discover more about healing. And during that time, there was a free Reiki talk at a local yoga studio. And I went to meet my future Reiki master, and she was actually, I'm not sure how old she is, but she's definitely aging gracefully. And she had such a good energy and a really large sense of joy about her that when I met her, I was like, wow, if I could be like that when I'm that age, this is totally, what I'm waiting for, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like the mental progression. And then emotionally, during that time, I recently had broken up with an ex-girlfriend and realized that I had been running away from my sexuality my whole life. So it was like a coming out process, an awakening process.
Right on.
All of the magic started to happen. And then once I allowed all of that, I recognized that I do have kind of like this sense of maturity that even my peers and colleagues and mentors would kind of reflect that back to me. So Wayshore is something that I've kind of been shown about myself through others, I would say.
Yeah, right on. And so like, so you went through some trauma, which, and then some what I call come to Jesus meetings, without no disrespect to Western, but you
Yes.
went toe to toe with you and said,
Mhm.
this is who I am, this is what I want, you know, and with that came, you know, a lot of validation. This is a similar story to a lot of people that come on the show that are have more linear, you know,
Time.
rings around them, whatever you call it. Yeah. So, but
Yes.
it's like, you know, so, and everyone's story is different. The universe communicates to each one of us differently. I
Mm.
mean, have you, for instance, I mean, I talked to some of these young people, and it's just a very organic thing. They don't, you know what I mean? It's like they're just like in this totally other place, or maybe it's not tainted, and so their information or their communication seems to be, let me put it this way, there's no wrong answer, from one universal voice or their higher self. Where a lot of the people that are in my age group and younger have had episodes with specific divine essences they communicate with, or galactic family, or angels, archangels. Have you had any of that?
So I'm still figuring out who or what to call my spiritual guidance system. That's
Yeah,
kind of like my main phrase that I use right now. Um, in my first exposure to Reiki, I did experience an angelic presence, just like a being walking above my head while we were meditating, which was, you know, at the time I had just come out of like the whole, you know, we're going to reject everything that our parents told us, and including religion, and, you know, get rid of all those beliefs because God's not real and all those things. And then I had that experience and I was like, wow, well, I guess I was kind of wrong about that. So I have experienced some angelic consciousness, you could say, not to say like one specific archangel or anything like
yeah,
that, but as a whole, I do feel just like a sense of connection with a higher self, or just a soul essence more
yeah,
than a specific being.
yeah, yeah. That's what I'm getting at. Yeah. And
Mm.
so, and in terms of in terms of the Reiki, obviously the Reiki was some type of trigger or door opening for you, and the person that was who became your teacher. I guess her energy. Uh,
Mm.
how long did it take you once you started, you know, taking the training to start to pick up on energy? And what was that experience like when you're working on other people or having yourself worked on? When
Mm.
you start, was there a point where you started to see, touch, and feel it, and you know, evidence, and just and see the non-physical in action, so to speak?
Hmm. Yeah, it's definitely more felt and perhaps heard for me, like an internal hearing. But as soon as like the first like Reiki training happens in a few different levels. So the first class, we learned how to scan our own energy system, and just like realizing that if it's cold over one part of my body, and then you run Reiki there and it heats up, like that is like a whole bunch of evidence. And something related to that is a lot of this process is finding your own personal truth, which I think is something that might be a little bit undervalued in our current paradigm. Because, you know, I was learning a bunch of scientific truth and materialist truth, but only when I started to figure out what my personal truth was and my experience with energy did I really start to be able to bridge that more linear thinking with the more intuitive feeling senses. So yeah, in short, right away in Reiki training, it was like a remembrance more than a learning.
Yeah,
So it was like, okay, yeah, like this is very natural for me. This is what was missing in my day-to-day reality, was a connection with that divine consciousness. So it was very quick.
has your family and friends or people that knew you pre awakening, what's going on with them? I mean, have they seen the change in you? Have they said anything? Has that created any obstacles, challenges for you? Or have they been supportive?
For the most part, yeah. I haven't had any like negative backlash. I think my family is still trying to like put language to what I do, but they definitely like call me zen or really relaxed. They kind of like, they definitely notice that I am not one to jump to anger or any type of emotional reaction like that. I never really have been, except for when I was like very, very young. I was kind of like the mean older brother for a period of time.
I had one of those.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's something that is still unfolding, because before my awakening, I would say that besides my siblings, so yeah, my parents are kind of like, I don't know, like I don't like to use hierarchy, but a little bit behind on the awake spectrum, you could say.
Yeah, that's understandable. They're probably my age. Or younger. They're probably younger than me. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I mean, that, and the reason I'm asking is because so many people I've observed, and I did the same thing 8 years ago, to a degree, we wake up and we're like, oh, and then it starts coming in, and then you're like, you want to tell everybody.
Yes.
And everybody's like, and then you see people writing about it, like, nobody will listen to me. That's like step 2 in the awakening to me. Is like, forget about telling anybody. Just like you said,
Right.
find your own truth, and then the rest just kind of rolls from there. But
Yes.
sounds like yours has been a little bit smoother. Now, are there other 23-year-olds? I mean, even like where you're going to school, when you've been going to school, in your work. I mean, are there other people in their 20s that are getting the same thing you're getting?
Within the Reiki community here in Rhode Island, there are 1 or 2 others that are in the later 20s.
Yeah.
But I would definitely say that well, actually, there are some parents who bring like teenage children to learn Reiki, like 1 and 2. But as far as like teaching classes and being in the everyday work life, I would say I haven't met anyone my age who's a Reiki master, no.
Yeah.
But like 27, 28.
And is it the because you see a lot of people now. I mean, and not to take anything away from Reiki or anything else, any
Mhm.
process, any modality, any skill, ability, training, whatever. But is it the Reiki that is the impetus, I guess, or it was an impetus, I think, for your awareness and expansion. Obviously, that's what you said. But is it the Reiki, or was it a doorway to something else? Is it energy? Because you use that term
Mhm.
in your bio. Is it energy? What did you call it? Energy healer, energy practitioner, something like that. But is that the focus? Is it just limited to the Reiki? How do you mesh that with the pharmaceutical thing? How's that all coming? I think you said it a minute ago when you said the mix of the linear and the non-physical. How's that all
Yeah.
going for you?
So I do see medicine as a spectrum of vibration, and Reiki is just on that
Yeah.
wavelength like any other modality. Um, I do think Reiki is its own divine consciousness that we have access to that moves through us. But that doesn't mean that there can't be energy workers that use the same level or frequency and call it something else.
Yeah.
And I also consider like sound healing and light therapy and even pharmaceuticals as different vibratory methods for healing. There's a lot of controversy with the
No, I want to.
interpretation
No,
of
I like that. I've never heard that. I'm totally with you, and I know people that do different variations of what you're talking about with the sound, the color therapy, vibration. I mean, all kinds of different ways, and I'm loving the fact that you're putting those all into one and the same. You're right,
Mhm.
because I mean, ultimately, it all gets down to that point somehow, some way. But now you bring up the pharmaceuticals, and I find that a couple of things I find interesting that you said. One, I had a family member years ago who was diagnosed schizophrenic, borderline personality disorder, and at the time, I didn't know anything about any of that stuff. And you brought up a good point earlier about the mental illness, and which leads me into the second part, which is about the pharmaceuticals. But anyway, what I found out was, now this would have been early 90s. No, I'm sorry, early 2000s, and I started researching, and I found that there was only three identifying mental conditions, and there was 5 disorders. And I started researching. I thought, oh my God, 5,000 years of recorded history, and this is how they got it categorized. And the disorders were only just like 10 years old. About 5 years later, I went back and researched it some more, and the disorder list had grown to like 25. And I thought, well, that's like playing pin the tail on the donkey. You know what I mean? And throwing darts in the dark or something.
Yes.
So that leads, and because of that experience and my own, in regard to holistic and pharmaceuticals, I think that's a very interesting concept or idea that you're bringing forth, that they're in the same group, and I'm all ears with the other ones that you identified. So can you elaborate on how that works? Because I do believe everything is energy, absolutely 100%. But I'm interested to hear where you're at with it.
Sure. So, while the pills and tablets and liquids all have a physical form in this reality, I think that those who have a physical structure that are in alignment with the vibration of that medicine, are a vibrational match with that healing modality. So as an example, say someone who has diabetes, and they take metformin, and they have allowed certain belief systems and certain vibrations and stuff in the aura to trickle down and affect their day-to-day decisions, which has eventually manifested this chronic illness. So being that they are now a vibratory match for disease, I think that pharmaceuticals can come into play where they work in that same physical reality. Not to say that we should really push them as heavily as we do now, and not to say that they are a match for every person.
Yeah.
But for those who are in that space where they can benefit, I think it does kind of come down to vibration and belief systems, because they kind of need a sudden, it's emergency medicine. It's kind of like an acute switch or fix to the problem so that they can get back on their feet and start to change if they want to.
Yeah, that's interesting. Almost like it starts you out, and then like you wean off of it, I guess. Maybe that's what I know. Like, for instance, I know I had chronic back pain, back problems for 12 years, and I went through doing nothing to pharmaceutically speaking, trying ibuprofen, which didn't work. And once I was able to compare it with naproxen, and I don't take much anymore. Very rarely will I take some. I might buy a 20 pill bottle, and it might last 5 or 6 months. But it's still like if I tweak my back just a little bit, I'll pop 2. Next day, I'm fine within a couple hours, and the next day I'm very limber. I've always thought about that. And my wife, who has done a lot of work and over the years, and like reaching into the morphic field of anti-inflammatory medicine, or whatever the subject was she was looking into, and had success with it. And so I tried this like 3 months ago. She went back home temporarily, and I was by myself, and I bought some Aleve, and I basically reached into the morphic field of it as I held it in my hand, merged with it, whatever you want to call it, and it actually worked. It actually worked. Now I haven't stuck with it. I've tried it a few more times, but it worked, and that was really kind of a incredible thing. And then the flip side of that, which maybe you can elaborate on this, because it confused me. The flip side of that is I tried another pharmaceutical, where I took it for a few days and got nothing out of it. Nothing.
Mm.
I was thinking, now wait a minute. So I can tap into this consciousness or this energy of an Aleve tablet, and I can actually pull that energy into, and it will do the same thing as taking the pill. But then I go and take this other one, which there some type of blockage, or what was that? You know, nothing happened at all. There was no effect at all.
Hmm.
How does that work?
That is so awesome. So when you say like reaching into the morphic field, you're not actually physically taking the tablet at that point. Is that correct?
No, like she explained to me, I think one of her first experiences was where she was studying a course, and I think she was applying the process of the course, and she wanted more.
Mm-hmm.
So she went into that morphic field of that information, pulled it down, typed it all up, you know, and actually blew the socks off the instructor who was teaching the course. He said, "Where did you get that information?" You know, so the morphic field being, as I understand it, being that consciousness. Like, so you know, you could pick any subject, I guess. If
Right.
I'm using anti-inflammatory, I could reach in there. Okay, how do I reduce the inflammation in my spinal fluid, which is putting pressure on my nerves? You know, without having to do all the exercises and you know, all that stuff. But I did it with this pill, and over 3 or 4 days, and it worked. It actually worked.
That's awesome.
I was amazed by it. But then at the same time, I take this other pill, and you know, and it didn't work. I was like,
Right.
what's going on here? Is the universe trying to tell me something? What is this all about?
Hmm.
Or are these just dummy pills, you know? But,
Well, yeah, it sounds a lot like we're tapping into a placebo effect conversation.
mhm.
Um,
Belief system.
but yes, so perhaps with the pill that didn't work, it could have been, you know, you might not have been energetically aligned with it, or maybe you were kind of just mindlessly like, oh, I know this will work.
Yeah, I wasn't aligned with it at
Right.
all. I really wasn't.
So that's what we call the nocebo effect. So if we see people who are in a clinical study about a new drug or something like that, and they take it and other people are responding, but there's a population that doesn't respond to the medication. So they could have the belief that they're so broken, quote unquote, that not even the medicine can help them. So it does kind of create an energetic block that prevents the medicine from working.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and how do you see, I mean, how do you see, obviously you've got a lot of passion for what you're doing. You're combining what do you want to call it? The 3D with the 5D, or the conventional with the holistic. Now, you say you work, for instance, at a very progressive pharmacy. What are they doing? Is it the trajectory that you're heading? What do you see happening? What are the possibilities? What are your dreams for this?
Yes, my dreams are quite lofty.
Good.
But the store I work in right now is called Green Line Apothecary, and it is forward thinking, but it's actually kind of like a blast from the past at the same time. It's like a vintage soda fountain pharmacy with all these fancy sodas and organic.
Oh my God, are you serious?
And that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's awesome.
I just had a chili cheese hot dog with onion.
That's so
Probably
funny.
the first place I used to get it was at a place like that. So it's an old school. I know it's not serving probably hot dogs, but
yeah, just like pie and ice.
But it's got the
sodas.
old school pharmacy thing, right? So
exactly.
Now, do you guys prescribe the traditional alongside with the holistic?
Yes, exactly. So we have patients that, you know, we'll see their naturopath and they'll come in and they'll say, I was recommended like krill oil and these other weird quote unquote weird supplements. And we have access to a supplier that can bring in holistic products as well as regular pharmaceuticals. So it's a really cool kind of like dynamic patient interaction field for me. And, you know, we'll have like your traditional self-care products like cough and cold remedies and stuff, but then we also have some herbal lines and some traditional folk medicines and tinctures and essential oils and the whole shebang.
That's a whole show. I'd love to do a show on that. I don't know anything about that stuff. I'm not very much of a conformist or whatever you want to call it.
Mm,
Really meditate and stuff like that. You know what I mean? But that's interesting. I don't. I when I was on the streets, I started taking a lot of vitamins. Well, I was taking magnesium, calcium, zinc, C, E, B12, because I wasn't eating a lot. I wasn't getting the nutrition I needed, and it worked. It worked for me. Actually,
yeah, those are all things that the general public may benefit from taking.
well, I mean, and then I kind of got away from it. And every now and then, I might take some. I might buy a small bottle of calcium, magnesium, zinc. As I understand it, calcium, that combination accelerates the healing process. Things like that. But what I was going to ask you about was HTP5, serotonin.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a useful supplement? Especially given the now non-cyclical sleeping patterns of those people who are awakening, or I don't know what you want to call it, awakening, but those people who are sensitive to the energies that seem to be prevalent among everybody. You might sleep for 2 hours and then you're up for 25, and you know what I mean? Is that a good supplement, or is there another one that would complement, or I say complement, or help shore up your reserves for lack of sleep?
So I don't think that serotonin is absorbed very well taken orally. You'd probably have to take very high doses to get enough into the bloodstream and then into the brain to kind of work with it in that way. There are some foods that are high in tryptophan, which is the precursor to serotonin. So I would say if you're looking for a supplement to boost serotonin, I would go with a tryptophan supplement, which you should find in a regular pharmacy. But you're right on with the calcium, zinc, and magnesium. There's so many benefits to those trace minerals.
Yeah, they help me out. Now, I'm back on the serotonin thing, or whatever that other word, the pre whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
Would you recommend the foods that are rich in it, or a supplement?
If someone's willing to, well, tryptophan high foods are foods that everybody likes, like cheese and bread and wine and stuff like that. So
there we go.
You're following more of like a Mediterranean diet.
So the Italians got it made. No wonder they all have siestas in the middle of the afternoon every day. No wonder.
Yes, yeah, it can definitely make you sleepy. Yeah, not to say like gorge out on those kind of things. So if you are watching your weight, I would say, a supplement capsule formulation might be better for you versus a pasta dinner. But
it always makes me tired. Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah.
So have you heard people talk about the carbon body transforming into a light body?
I have heard about that. I did read one of the first books I ever read on my awakening was kind of advanced. It was the Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life by Drew Below Melchizedek.
Yeah.
And there was a whole chapter about how we're shifting from the carbon base to the silicon base, which I thought was super interesting. But since I read that, I haven't really gone down the rabbit hole too deeply with that.
Well, I mean, just from your perspective, do you see, I realize that the holistic thing is really old school. It's really like we think, this is the new way of living. Well, it's really the old way,
Right.
What I'm saying, especially energetically. But I guess what I'm saying is, do you see any, because I have had some people on, have talked about from a medical angle, some of the changes that they're seeing, some of the things that have happened. Are you seeing anything like that? Are you seeing any evidence of the physiology, the physicality changing, where the demands or the needs are maybe different, or the treatments are different, and it's not due to somebody's agenda or whatever?
Right. Yeah, well, I definitely sense that people are super, super sensitive at this time. Whether they know why or why not is kind of a different story. But what I have noticed is, a lot of people are really concerned about, what brand their medicine is and what the extra ingredients are, because a lot more people are having allergies to certain types of things, and yeah, just sensitivities in the body to external chemicals, which at the end of the day, that's kind of what pharmaceuticals are. So I definitely see the physiology responding in that way. And I also think that we are definitely shifting into a less dense state of being. And I think, the next few life cycles for these souls are going to be getting lighter and lighter. But this is kind of where some people are going to really need the allopathic traditional medicine that we have in the modern day. Some people are going to really go for the olden time folk medicine, plant medicine type route. And then there's some of us who, like even you, can just think of the essence of a certain medicine and just take it in energetically and have a physical response. So, and I kind of
I've only done it once. One period. I was in
yeah,
a
that's still something.
Yeah, I was in a kind of a special place with it because I was alone. I was, in quiet, here. And, but I have to say, I probably have tried it again. I can't, maybe 3-4 times, not necessarily with pharmaceutical. And I've seen, like I said, I've seen some success with it, which was kind of shocking at first because I was like, oh my God, the human's like, oh my God, I'm so smart. But, and the other ones were like, this isn't working. What's happening? I don't know. It's to me, it's like the first time I was really actually able to, because I didn't believe it, to be honest with you. So I was like, I saw it as energy. I was like, oh my God, this is just energy.
Right.
And I see this too with like intention. Like, people might create something, like let's say the internet. I don't profess to know anything. Let's say the internet was created and premeditatively designed to control us and get our locations and all these scary stories that people tell, the boogeyman's under the bed. But even with that intention, that's an energetic field that still contains everything. And, it's kind of like I've seen it so many times, the yin yang, somebody's intentions maybe not so good and something great comes out of it. It's like falling in a bucket of poop and you come out with a pot of gold. You know what I mean? And it's like the universe is not going to allow anything but what's supposed to happen, I guess. And
right.
I got off on a tangent, but what I'm trying to say is that it's all energy. And I find this fascinating that you're going into the medicine field open to, and instead of, throwing rocks at anything and everything that the matrix created and the oligarchies created, and you're actually going, hey, I'm open to this, but I'm open to this. And that's integration. That's 0 point to me. That's a soul highway. So I commend you for that. I think that frequency speaks for itself, regardless of what comes out of your mouth or what you do.
Thank you. I like to believe that too.
So, but like you were talking about earlier, now what is your dream? Because this seems to be your purpose. That's a very unique blend there. So I can't just think you pulled that out of thin air.
Yeah. So I would say my dream is to either own and operate or be a very large part of a community wellness center. Like if I could paint it for you, it'd be a beautiful glass building with tons and tons of plants where it functions as a walk-in clinic, yoga studio, meditation center, outpatient pharmacy. There's medicine people of all kinds, somewhere where you could ride the full spectrum of medicine in one stop shop.
Yeah.
Which I hear might kind of exist already more on the West Coast, but here in the East Coast, there's really not much of that at all.
Well, it's funny. I don't want to get into that. I've lived in both. Well, on the surface, the Northeast, the Northeast. I mean, that's 55% of the houses in the country. Population. I mean, it's very dense. It is a different atmosphere. The West Coast is kind of to me, sometimes it's a little la-di-da, too la-di-da, you know? So, I don't know. I've seen a lot of strength spiritually, some really ancient, uh, you know, powerful energy in the Northeast, and less in the West. The West seems to be more contemporary, I guess I would put it. I don't know. I don't know. It's an interesting observation, though. But I think and we've had people on here that are basically had the same vision. You know, you have the same vision. You picked a tough spot, though. So,
Yes, I'm up for the challenge, and luckily, I don't think I'll have to create it out of nothing because I get to have my first real life job in a place that already is doing a little bit of both. So
you created that,
right?
Yeah. So now you do the Reiki work, but you also talk about what are the other things that you do, energy work wise, taking nothing away from the pharmaceutical, the pharmacy. But what else do you do in these sessions?
So I always start everything with a meditation because I think that is something that we need a lot of, just because our nervous systems are so engaged and taxed day in and day out that even having 5 minutes of peace a day is something I like to hold on to. So that's something I like to do in every session. And the Reiki, I do, hands-on. If I could either go to someone's home or they could come see me, and it's traditional, like laying on a massage table, nice aromatherapy, peaceful music, that kind of thing. I also do that remotely, so distance healings and stuff like that. I offer oracle readings, and just if you want to learn to meditate, that as well for now.
How do you feel about you've got two, I guess, technically. I mean, it depends on who you're talking to. One would say you've got one job and you've got this other thing you do.
Right.
The other thing you do, is that a vocation?
I would like it to be more so, but it's still in a kind of like pilot and growth phase for sure.
But I mean, is that, do you feel like this will be, if not already, a vocation, whether it's you or anybody else, a respected, recognized, utilized vocation?
Yes. I don't know if that's my own desire, but I'm going to say yes, because I think that it is a time of the returning of the medicine people. So,
yeah, I'm with you on that. Totally with you. I want to ask you, being the field that you're in, what happens to you when the energies come down and kick everybody's in the ass and they're going to sleep and they're getting triggered? And, I find it a fascinating question, and I get fascinating answers, because most of the people that come on this show, 1,300 episodes now, most of them do some level of energy work. And or may have a certain process or modality. I'm always interested to hear what, A, does it happen to you? Do you get affected by the energies? Do you ever get triggered? And B, how do you on a personal level handle it?
Such a lovely question. Yes. So I am not immune to the triggers of life or the intense energies that I feel are on the planet, even right now. This week has been kind of dense for me personally. Just
you
with
you and everybody else I've talked to.
Yes. Every day there's a new computer problem, and there's angry people at work, like whenever, those are just kind of like a part of the 3D thing for right now. But it definitely hasn't been smooth sailing. And when I get home, it's kind of like, okay, I need to be silent. I need to, have my Reiki session for me personally. And a lot of times, that doesn't always solve all of the issues, and you go to sleep and you find the strength to wake up the next day. But I think or seeing my reality as a mirror, I still, am kind of someone that isn't as bogged down as the energies could make you. So
Yeah.
that kind of gives me a little bit of, that human validation that we need to say, like, okay, I'm not feeling 100%, but I'm still going and I'm still trying and I'm still being where I am at. So that is super valuable.
I can do this. That one. I can do this.
I can hold on a little longer.
Yeah. Have you ever had any of those moments where, since you were, since it started at 20, so what, 3-4 years? Have you ever had any of those moments where you're like, what in the hell am I doing here? Why did you put me here? Get me out of here. Beam me up, Scotty. I'm done.
Yes.
Stick a fork in my ass. I'm done. Have you ever had any of those moments?
Yes.
Yeah, good. Good. I just want to make sure that you're human. That's all. I'm kidding.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I am human as can be.
Very cool. Yeah. And so in the 3 years, these 3 or 4 years, as you've been on this path, how has that affected what's materialized in your life? I mean, was there before, after? Do you see manifestation or materialization of your purest desires, intentions? I mean, do you see something happening there? Do you see some reciprocation from the universe? Do you see the math working?
Yes. It's funny you say math because numbers are super big for me. Like seeing that certain times of day and, repeating numbers, 444, 333, 11, all of those synchronicities are kind of bombarding all the time. So I like that. I don't always know if it's like, hey, you should not do this or hey, you should do this, but I'm still learning to read myself, I guess. Yeah. But as far as seeing things manifest for me, this past, I would say the past 6 months since the new year has been where I've been like the most conscious of how that's played out for me.
Yeah.
And just to give you an example, back in the new year, I was living with a roommate of mine in a house down in the southern part of Rhode Island. And something I wanted to manifest was moving in with my partner and getting the job of my dreams and, kind of starting my life how I really wanted to. Because I saw, it was like all through college, you're waiting until you graduate, until the end comes, and you're like, okay, yeah, like I finished that. But in reality, it's all about starting the rest. So that's something I didn't really realize until, like maybe April or May when it was right happening. And you're like, oh, well, life is going to keep going. So what is that going to look like? But now I am living in a beautiful apartment with my partner and I have a really awesome job that I talked about already. So I definitely am seeing how that really works in a whole new way because I haven't really been so intentional about my life until this whole wake up process. So yes.
Excellent. That's it.
And it's not always a comfortable ride.
No.
It doesn't at all happen as you think it's going to, but that's where the faith and the trust come into play.
Isn't that funny though? How that works? We
Mm.
were just talking about this last night over here. How, like you're headed down a certain path, and you can't like attach. Okay, universe, please let this happen. And you've got to like be in this space of non-attachment, non-resistant, and surrender,
Right.
and embrace, and and all that stuff. And then something will fall in place. Boom, like a big boom, like, okay, you're set now. And then the next day you walk out and the rug's pulled out from under you.
Yes.
Like, oh no, that's not going to happen. And it, you know what I mean? And it has gotten smoother. And from the people I've talked to, it seems like it's getting smoother for a lot of people. But it's just interesting how sometimes what you think it is not anything like what it is. It ends up being something totally different, right?
Yeah, and I almost had to be like, oh wow, I asked for this once it happened.
Well, it is. That
Yeah.
is it. That's actually it right there.
Yes. So it's kind of surreal.
You can kick so many people that I met over the last 8 years would be like, they had what I call a faith quake, where they're cussing God or they're cussing the universe, and I've done it. But I mean, I've done it out of anger, not out of, no faith. But
Right.
But anyway, it's like kick yourself in the ass. That's really what you're doing. Anything that's happening, you've ordered it, and it's not from this human level. It's from this higher level.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is such a every day is a game changer. You know what I mean? Like, do you ever get that? Like, what's true today? Like, you got it, I got it, man. And then you wake up tomorrow, and there's like, oh, there's a whole new set of the landscape's different. Like, that was
Yes.
true for where I was, but now I'm in a different place. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I think being open with yourself and not, try not to define every aspect of you too concretely is important. And that's something that, I'm kind of guilty of, because I'm still in that phase of my life where I'm like, I want to know why I do X, Y, and Z. And I want to be able to call out my BS at these certain things. So there's some like language and definition that needs to go on, but also being okay with the fluidity that comes with that, because it's not going to change overnight, and you might need to have the realization 5 times before you actually do something about it. But
the universe does have a way of getting the record stuck. The song stuck on the same record. You wouldn't know because that's from when I was a kid. but if the record had a scratch in it, it would go and just play the same line over and over. Yeah, with that looping until we make a different choice. That's what my wife always says.
Right.
So that's going to keep happening to you until you make a different choice. I'm like, well, it's true.
Makes sense in the English. Yeah.
But I agree with you too. I think we spend a lot of time talking about stuff just to kind of like see it, touch it, feel it, like what's happening. Let's talk about it. And it's just more of an observation or discussion, trying to learn. But you're right. There's that unspoken fluidity that you're talking about. How do you explain that? You can't. You just kind of have to do it. That's an intuitive radar, that GPS.
Mm-hmm.
So are you? So you met, Melissa, I guess, from online.
Yeah, we actually met through Instagram. It was kind of like a soul recognition in virtual reality almost. But yeah, I have connected with a lot of really awesome healers, and this kind of like rising up of those who share this belief and are riding the new or expanded consciousness at this time. So that is something super cool. I would say most of my friends are scattered throughout the world right now because I've met them through online.
Join the club.
I know, yeah. Which, thank Source that we can experience that right now. Yeah,
absolutely. The highest physical form of the ether.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and the physicality of this internet. Yeah.
Wow.
Awesome. So, man, it's been cool rapping with you. It's been a great way to end this broadcasting day, and maybe we can do something again in the future, and maybe even do like maybe the little panel with you and Melissa, because I think Melissa's about your age.
Mm-hmm.
Got a few other young people that have come on. Interesting. Got a couple of them, couples that we're going to get on that are young. I mean, so yeah, everybody, it's all inclusive. Cool. And yeah, I think having these conversations is a great way to open each other up, and it's fun. Yeah, so
it is fun.
I enjoy talking to you. You're easy to talk to.
Oh, thank you. So are you.
I wish you the very best. You, your partner, all your loved ones, and your passion, your purpose, and what you're doing. And if there's anything you do where you want to broaden the awareness of it, if you're doing anything online or anything, just send me a message and see if we can help you out.
That's so sweet of you. Thank you so much.
All right, man. You take care.
Yes, you too, Todd. Thanks for everything.
All right, brother. Peace out.